Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something really critical: how technologies like augmented and virtual reality, XR, are changing the game for workforce training, specifically in high-stakes areas like life sciences, pharmaceuticals, biotech, clinical research.
Yeah, and it's a really timely deep dive. The problem we're seeing is, well, pretty acute. This sector is moving incredibly fast, with advanced therapies, biologics, but the old ways of training, they're just too slow, too inconsistent sometimes. And when you absolutely can't compromise on compliance or, crucially, patient safety, those old methods, they just introduce too much risk.
Right. So if the consequences are that high, potentially millions lost on a mistake, we need to ask, how does XR actually build better performance and faster than, say, traditional mentoring or just reading SOPs? What's the core idea making this tech necessary?
Well, the core insight, I think, is really about reducing that human variability. The risks are immediate and I'd say threefold. First, you've got these non-negotiable compliance rules. Think FDA, EMA. The standard is basically, if it wasn't documented, it didn't happen. Strict. Second, the cost of error is just spiraling. A single contamination, that can wipe out an entire multi-million-dollar production batch just like that. And third, there's the machinery itself. It's a complex stuff, bioreactors, chromatography skids. You don't master that from a textbook.
Okay, so tackling human error and equipment error at the same time, that makes sense. Let's look at the XR solutions then. Maybe start with that highest risk bit: GXP compliance and aseptic technique. We hear about virtual clean rooms, but how is that truly better than just practicing physically or, watching a training video?
The key is the immediate personalized feedback loop. It's quite powerful. So when a technician practices gowning, say, in the XR environment, the system picks up on tiny movements, slight deviations, things that could lead to contamination in the real world. It corrects them instantly. So it's not just repeating, it's perfect practice without judgment. This builds that critical muscle memory for complex compliance steps much, much faster than a human mentor probably could.
Right. Turning procedure into instinct almost. So if that first area, Group A, tackles human contamination, then Group B, complex equipment operation, addresses that other huge financial risk: equipment failure, downtime. Does XR really make training on these super complex, expensive systems more accessible, or is the hardware itself a barrier?
No, it absolutely democratizes the practice part. That's the key. XR helps cut down time and error rates because, look, a junior tech can rehearse a really complex workflow, like sampling a fermentation tank or starting up a bioreactor, dozens of times, all without tying up the actual multi-million-dollar equipment or wasting expensive materials. You're basically shifting high-risk learning off the production floor into a zero-risk virtual space. That makes mastery scalable, standardized across any site, anywhere in the world.
That scalability is huge. And the efficiency focus leads us nicely into Group C: faster onboarding and documentation. We've heard clean room tech readiness can drop from, 6 months down to maybe 2. That's significant. But it's not just speed, is it? The system uses AI to enforce documentation standards. What exactly is the tech ensuring there?
It's ensuring audit-proof data integrity. That's the goal. The AI modules enforce what's known in the industry as ALCOA plus standards. It's an acronym, and it's really the backbone of good documentation practice. Data has to be attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. The plus adds a few more. In XR, meeting these standards isn't just a checklist item you tick off later. The system verifies and records that ALCOA plus is being met during the procedure in real time. That creates this defensible digital record of proficiency. That's gold for audits.
Wow, embedding the documentation right into the practice itself. That's clever. Okay, let's pivot slightly to the clinical side now. Group D, clinical trial integrity. Things like handling sensitive patient interactions, maybe informed consent conversations. Why use XR for something like that? Seems more like a soft skill.
Well, think about global clinical trials. Standardization is everything. You need consistency across every site. Trial staff have to juggle empathy, nuance, and precise regulatory steps all at once. It's demanding. So practicing something like informed consent in XR lets trainees navigate tricky emotional situations with virtual patients, while ensuring, critically, that every single required regulatory step is followed exactly the same way everywhere. It standardizes both the soft skills and the hard compliance needed for trial success and ultimately drug approval.
Okay, so bringing it all together, What's the big picture shift here for the life sciences sector? It sounds like a move away from just reading static SOP documents
Exactly.
towards these immersive simulations that build real verifiable muscle memory. And crucially, they enforce those documentation principles like ALCOA plus SEN systemically, ensuring training is standardized globally.
That's it, precisely. By linking the learning directly to immersive corrected practice, XR makes those two critical elements, precision and compliance, genuinely trainable. And not just trainable, but repeatable and globally scalable. It helps ensure every batch, every clinical decision is backed by a workforce trained to the absolute highest verifiable standard.
And that verification is definitely the key theme emerging, which leads us to a final thought for you, our listeners, to consider. If virtual practice using XR can now provide these verifiable, defensible records of someone's proficiency, their compliance, checked against standards like LCOA plus SEWR, how does this new standard fundamentally change what we even mean by hands-on experience in these incredibly high-stakes fields? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.